This is the Girls of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today I want to share with you guys about a comment that I received today after I made a video the other day about preparing your body for your future husband. And the question was, what about piercings? Because I'd spoken about tattoos, I'd spoken about different things that you might want to not do to your body to prepare for the right man to come along. And so she asked about piercings, and my initial answer was, well, earrings are okay, obviously, but, some guys might maybe find a navel piercing attractive, but it completely depends. And but it might be better to just avoid it altogether. So that was my response to her. And then she was like, well, then, is helix piercings okay? First, I had to check out, Google what helix piercings was, and then I did, and I was like, okay, first of all, rules when it comes to women are good, yes. But when there are too many rules, it becomes a massive burden. And as we know on this channel, is whatever creates massive burden for women is bad. Like, it's gonna make them more masculine because they're gonna have to remember, and they're gonna have to discipline themselves, and they're gonna have to go, with their head, and have to be rationally thinking about it. And they'll be questioning themselves, and then they continuously need to be told what to do because they don't know what's the right thing to do at that moment in time, etc. A lot of this rules mindset and thinking we've received from religion, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. Like, in the old days, in the old times of the Old Testament, they had so many rules. It was like ridiculous. It was like, in terms of the Sabbath day, there were limits to how many steps they could walk in order to, are you keeping the Sabbath day holy? Fortunately, that's not how it is in reality and the way society works today. Fortunately, you don't want to be in a society where you are micromanaged. Being micromanaged means that someone is watching your every step, and if you do something wrong, we're gonna tell you, and if you don't always do this and that and the other, then you're gonna be in huge problems. This is micromanaging that doesn't really go according to women's emotions. You gotta understand that women's emotions are flowy. They ebb and flow. It's different from time to time, and it goes according to how she feels. And we want women to follow their emotions within some certain boundaries that need to be set in order for society and for families to work and function. There should be as few rules as possible in order for the critical rules to be kept. Okay, so why are we doing this? Why do we want as few rules as possible? It's so that you don't have to think. You don't have to worry. You don't have to look over your shoulder all the time. You don't have to feel bad because you did something that, you maybe shouldn't have. It relieves women of burden, because what burdens women is the expectations of others. And, thinking about what other people are going to think about what she's doing and what she's done and all that stuff. Your past is your past, and your past is not your future. So you can always start from today and just create a better future for yourself simply by stepping within the boundaries and following those few critical rules, and then not give yourself any issues for what has been happening in the past, or the stupid, silly, small rules and expectations that people put upon you. Another example of why there should be fewer rules is in terms of the government. I don't talk a lot about politics on this channel, but eventually I'll have to do that because it's a huge part of this movement in explaining politics. One aspect of this is in terms of the rules and regulations of government. And from experience and from hundreds and hundreds of years of history, what we've noticed is that the fewer rules that the people has to keep and live by, the better. There are certain inalienable rules, and that men and women know inherently by nature that we're not supposed to do. Like our conscience will tell us. And those are the ones that are critical to keep. And they've obviously not killing people, not cheating on people, not going behind their back, being dishonest, being kind to others. Just certain rules, not being violent, not infringing upon someone else's freedom, so that you yourself can be free, right? You keep the simple golden rule of, do unto others what you want them to do to you. And those are simple and clear-cut and few and critical rules. But I don't agree with that, because what ends up happening is that the more rules and regulations that the government puts upon the people, the less they keep them, the less they want to keep rules in general, and the less they keep the big rules. And that's a problem. Like, if a person lives in a country and there's just tons and tons and thousands of rules, and the law book just becomes bigger and bigger and fatter, eventually the people will become lawless. And they're not going to care about the law until, the police no longer have the capacity to help the people and their rights and their freedom. So what's the answer? The answer is to have as few rules as possible, as little regulation as possible, so that people will be rightfully taken care of or punished, if necessary, if they do something that is literally outside the boundaries, the true boundaries of the things that we know no one should be doing. That we keep the main rules massively, to a T, 100%. And that's how I envision the future to be, is to live in a world where women know what their boundaries are, that they're supposed to live within certain boundaries that they together set with their husband, but that there's so few rules which allows their emotions to roam. They're free to think, they're free to vent, they're free to, together with my wife, like, I allow her to tell me everything. And now I'm literally telling you everything. There are no secrets that she has from me. Now, with me, I don't share with her financial information of our family. And she's happier not knowing the financial conditions that we're in, whether they're positive or negative. Like, it doesn't matter for her, because she knows that she's going to be provided for no matter what. And she loves that. But in terms of her having secrets, there are none. And that's one of our boundaries, is that she just shares with me, whatever she wants to share with me, and she won't be punished for it. Does that make sense? Like, I'll never judge her for something that she says, because I know that if she shares it with me, I can nip it in the bud whenever, it gets out of order, or if necessary, or, I can just allow it and not take her too seriously sometimes, and just simply enjoy the fact that she's actually sharing information with me. I want her to not have as many rules. Though there are some certain rules that need to be kept, there are certain boundaries that need to be, that she needs to be within. but it's for her protection. And it's a cocoon that she's happy to live within, and she has tons of space, okay, in her cocoon to roam and to fly and to do whatever she wants to do, according to what we've agreed upon. So that's kind of a concept that I wanted to share with you guys to kind of explain what a man of high value will do for you in the future. Is that he's going to have boundaries for you, but he's going to have very, very few rules. Like, you're free to do whatever you want. However, there are certain boundaries that if you cross these, there has to be consequences, but they're so outlandish and will be so far away from your heart and desire because you love him, because of the way he treats you and the way he loves you, that you won't even be thinking about going outside those boundaries. And that will just simply give you an emotional fulfillment and satisfaction to know that you're free. You can do whatever you want within those boundaries. Another important aspect of this is, within the financial aspects of it. Like I've mentioned this in the past, but the way I look at it is that a man should keep the financial information for himself, not as a means of power, but as a means of not having to let her know about problems. Like, the less a woman has to think about problems, the more carefree she's allowed to be in her life and in her emotions, to be in her body instead of being in her head thinking about problems all the time, the more happy she's going to be. But he needs to be able to have come to a certain financial foundation that is strong for him in his life, that he can say that this amount, this is what you can spend and stretch, right? Stretch the dollar. The man makes the dollar, the woman stretches the dollar. And she can use this discretionary aspect, but she has to stay within that budget, if you want to call it that, or spending limit for that month. And he never decreases that limit. And he keeps working, it consistently and exponentially grows the amount of freedom she has in her spending limit. So that would be a boundary. Like, there are certain things that you don't do, and that is, for example, getting a credit card or doing something that goes outside that spending limit that has been created, so that he can always be able to exponentially increase it. Because if you spend too much of his money too soon, then he might freak out at one point and then take back, the spending limit or decrease it, and then you're going to feel rejected by it, and you're not going to feel safe. You're going to be wondering if something's wrong with the finances. You're going to wonder, do you understand what I mean? Like, you want there to be a boundary, but he's not going to decrease it. He's not going to make the boundary smaller and decrease the emotional experience that you have, if that makes sense. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I hope that you got something out of this video, in terms of the potential of, having the right man in your life that allows you to roam, that understands your emotions, and that understands that you also, at the same time as you should be free to roam and to enjoy life and to experience and be curious. You know how women are, right? They go into nature and they're so curious and running around and just being bubbly and giggly and just enjoying life. That's what a guy wants his woman to experience and have. And he wants to make sure that she's able to do that forever. Not just for a short period of time, but forever. I'm just going to finish with this. Before you meet your man, what are the few critical rules to keep? And I would say number one, the biggest one, huge one, is to have as few sexual partners before you meet the right guy. You can focus instead on being the best you and prepare yourself for the right guy that's going to come along faster than you believe it, if you are keeping your notch count down your sexual partner count down, because that automatically increases your sexual market value. And another big boundary would be to choose a feminine lifestyle, which means basically that you don't choose a career that's going to make you masculine, where you have to be disciplined, focused, and career driven. A masculine man is, would rather have you work for him and for his goal and his passion and his mission, and work for him, to reward him and to push him along, and to do what's necessary for him to feel on track all the time and making things happen, than you working for someone else's dream. Like, it doesn't make any sense to go out there. That's one of the huge boundaries that I would say a masculine man would have. And big boundaries for me would be, for example, to never cut your hair short. Like, that would be a huge boundary for me. A big boundary for me would be to continuously be healthy and fit. It's critical. It's important. Those are basically some of the things that I can think of right now, but I'm sure you can think of some others. And if you do, comment down below. Make sure you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.